This tutorial for NXG Logic Explorer is going to be based on summary statistics, transformations, and correlation. So let's get started. First, you want to add an Excel icon to import the data. And then under summary, you'll click on a feature selection icon and place that out here. And then a green analysis icon, and then connect those. And so they're connected. Now we need some transformations. So let's put those above the summarize icon. So let's look at normalization. So we'll normalize and we'll generate z-scores, and let's do ranks and then percentiles as well. So here's percent. So we'll click on those, move these out of the way, link these to we need we have to go from the feature selection. So did you see that anytime you try to make a link between an icon and something that's not, that violates the rules for feature selection or data selection and analysis, you'll just have a red there, so an error message. Let's connect the feature selection icon to the analysis icons. Now, one of the things that you can see on the screen regarding the transformation icons is that they're right-click run. So if you select the run execution icon here to run an entire job, the transformations won't run because Explorer will prevent you from rerunning and generating the same transformations over and over and over again. So you have to right-click on these to run. But first, let's complete what we're going to do. And then we said we're going to have summarize, and then we're going to look at association or correlation. So we'll click on the correlation analysis tab, and then add a link between the feature selection and the correlation. So this is summary statistics, and down here is correlation, and let's straighten all these out. So we're pretty much set now. We know these are going to be transformations, summarization of the data, and then correlation. So let's import the retinol data set, and it will be in your data folder on your My Documents folder in Windows. So double click on retinol. So it's imported. You'll see the data here. It's 14 features, 3 of which are categorical, 314 observations. Let's go back to workflow. Right click on this. We will select all the features. Let's select all the features first and run summary statistics. Now, in order to perform these transformations, you have to right-click on them. So there are really no settings for this. It's a blank parameter screen. So let's run that, and you can see all of the normalized variables here. If you look at the data tab, you'll see all the out to the right, all the normalized variables. And remember, we selected the categorical variables, so it's going to assume that 1, 2, and 3 need to be normalized, which you really would commonly never do, because for categorical variables, you always need to break those up into binary vectors representing each one of the levels. But nevertheless, you can see all, when normalization is performed, there's an N subscript before the variable name. That's described in the manual. Let's standardize all the variables we selected. Just click Run. And we see a Z in front of all the variable names. And we can also see those in the data spreadsheet. Way out to the far right, all the Z's here. Let's go back to workflow. Let's generate the ranks. And they're already generated. When ranks are generated, you have an R that precedes the variable name. If we want to look at those, we can go way out to the far right. And you can see the ranks of all these values. And if we want to then click on the percentiles, just click Run. And then there's a P prefix added to the variable names. And if you go to data and then to the very far right, you'll see all the percentiles. Okay, now, so in order to run transformations, you need to right click on them, because if you run, let's drop the summary icon and the correlation icons for now. If you have only the transformation run icons on the screen and you click Run on that, they won't run. So they have to be manually run individually so that you don't generate these over and over again. So it was before this feature was really added, they would, anytime you ran this and there were transformations on the workflow, it would just fill up with transformations. So it was changed. Explorer was changed so that they only run manually now. Let's add in the summary icon for data summarization, and we are going to run correlation as well. Now let's connect those to the feature selection icon. Now they're selected, and the green lines indicate that the data are all there. These connection lines will be black if there are no data. Even if there are no data imported in the Excel icon, these will remain black. And you'll also have the reminders showing on top of the feature selection and top of the data selection icon, reminding you to add the data and also select the features. And if you click on this when you need to import data or you need to select the features, it won't run. And a pop-up will occur. So we're ready to go. Now we selected all the features. Now for summary, let's run this. Let's run everything together, and then only the summary and correlation will run. So the category frequencies are here for categorical variables. Again, as you know, Explorer will determine on input whether or not variables are continuously scaled and categorically scaled or nominally scaled by using this number here, which is 10 categories. So if Explorer finds 10 or fewer discrete values, unique values of numbers or values for a feature or variable upon input, it will call it a categorical variable. And then we don't need to pay attention, so we can apply this, and that was the default setting. If we look at the histograms, here are all the variables and their histograms. So very nice. You can see that some of these variables are log normally distributed. The categorical variables are shown here. I said previously on some other lectures, for this retinol data set, the alcohol variable is a little bit, it's highly skewed because there's just one subject. With these, this is weekly consumption of alcohol, and in the data set, I think there was someone who consumed maybe it's 210 at the max here, but we can see that in the summary statistics. So let's go there now. Yeah, looking at alcohol, the max value was 203. So probably it could be an error in the data set, but we'll leave that there. So if you click on summary statistics, you'll see the scale for the variables, the sample size, the average, standard deviation, min, max, range, median, then the quartiles, 20th, 25th percentile, 50th percentile, which is equal to the median, and then the 75th percentile, and the skewness and the kurtosis. And out here on the right, we have the p-value for the Shapiro-Wilk normality test on all the continuously scaled variables. The Shapiro-Wilk test is not performed on the categorical variables, obviously. Category frequencies for variables that are claimed and identified to be categorical are shown here with their levels, the count number, and then the frequency, and then the totals. And then the histograms are shown as well. So quite rapidly, you can get a lot of information from Explorer just by having a data import icon, a feature selection icon, and then a summarize icon. And you'll get automatically all these three outputs. Now for the correlation, that was already run because we clicked on the overall run icon for everything that was in the workflow. And if we look at Pearson correlation, you'll see the Pearson correlation matrix, of which each cell entry represents the correlation coefficient, and then the coefficient cells are colored based on the level of significance. So red is a positive correlation coefficient for which the p-value is less than 0.01, and then a lighter pink color represents positive correlation coefficients for which the p-value is less than 0.05. Same thing with the negative correlation coefficients. Strongly negative correlated, well, not strongly, but rather for which the p-value is less than 0.01 for the negative coefficients, they're more of a darker blue. And then lighter blue represents negative correlation coefficients for which the p-value is less than 0.05. So a little bit less significant, but you can't claim that they're strongly correlated, because strong correlation is a correlation coefficient commonly defined by minus 0.8 and below, or 0.8 and above. So you wouldn't claim that. Well, this would be strongly positively correlated. So I'll leave that to the user to look through the correlation coefficient values. And then also what's provided is a picture, a graphic file, image file of just showing the cells and the p-value results, not the levels of the correlation coefficients, but rather the p-values. And then, because this is kind of useful to show a reader or a research team member or a colleague what variables are significant and what the levels are. So very useful. You know, in genetics, you would have a lot of genes, and this could be a 100, you might have 100 genes or 1,000 genes. So these are pretty useful. And when the data are a classification training set, you can see regions where there is significance and non-significance, depending on the classes involved. Explorer also generates a force plot, so you can see which variables agglomerate together based on the tension. And then the sorted distances here are shown in the based on the pairs of variables. So these are the fat and calories had the greatest correlation coefficient, and then sex and age had the lowest. So quite useful if you wanted to show those or find pairs of variables based on the strength of correlation. So Spearman is always run. So here's the Spearman correlation matrix. It's a non-parametric form of correlation, the significance plot, and then the force plot for Spearman. So again, we've gone over a run involving a workflow with Explorer, for which the Excel data import icon was used. The general feature selection went for these simple analysis such as summarization or association. We've also discussed the transformation variables and how they need to be right-clicked and then run manually in order to obtain results. And we also said that for analysis icons, you can either run each one individually or click on the run icon, and then both summary statistics and the correlation are run together, because these are not run, they're right-click only.